Alright lads, welcome back to another one of my War Thunder vehicle reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at the ZTZ-99A, the newest top tier main battle tank added to the Chinese tech tree. The 99 series of tanks is China's most modern main battle tank, and the A variant improved upon it by giving it a slightly modern gun capable of firing anti-tank guided missiles, new upgraded explosive reactive armour found on both the hull and the turret, and in real life it got an active protection system. However, this is not in game. The tank currently sits at battle rating 11.0 in arcade, realistic and simulator battles, and it is of course in rank 7. To unlock it, you're going to have to grind out 400,000 research points before purchasing the tank for a cost of 1,080,000 silver lions. To put the vehicle in your lineup, it's going to set you back 310,000 silver lions. And for the expert and ace qualifications, which I would recommend getting, it's 1,080,000 silver lions for the expert and 2,200 golden eagles for the ace. One of the biggest upgrades over the previous Chinese main battle tanks, especially in War Thunder, is the addition of a better engine, giving you great mobility on the battlefield. But because the Chinese tech tree is so new and not many people have it, is it actually worth grinding out the Chinese tech tree for this tank? And does the ZTZ-99A challenge the meta at top tier? Well, if you want to know the answer to that lads, you'll have to stick around for the rest of the video. Alright lads, welcome back. As always, we want to start with the mobility and the survivability, and this tank is powered by an engine producing 1,500 horsepower. Combined with the vehicle's weight of 55 tons, it gives the tank a very good power to weight ratio of 27.3 horsepower per ton. This is similar to the T-80U series of tank found in the Soviet tech tree, and it does give the ZTZ-99A fantastic mobility. The tank feels very nimble and light when driving, and you accelerate very well. The performance feels very similar to the T-80U as well as the Leopard 2A4, tanks that are both noted for their excellent top speed. And the 99A is no different. It has a top speed of 76 km per hour going forwards and 35 km per hour in reverse, thus getting rid of one of the biggest weaknesses of Chinese main battle tanks, the rather poor reverse speed. The tank is also very survivable. If we take a look at this image, we can see that we have an abundance of both composite armour on the hull and turret, as well as explosive reactive armour again on the hull and the turret. This makes the tank incredibly survivable against both incoming high explosive anti-tank and armour piercing fin stabilised discarding sabre round. To start, the hull of the vehicle is armoured with the FY4 explosive reactive armour. This gives you 140mm of protection against kinetic energy rounds and 450mm of protection against chemical rounds. Then on the turret, we have the new and improved FY5 explosive reactive armour. This gives you 250mm of protection against kinetic energy projectiles and 600mm of protection against chemical rounds. So before the incoming round has even got to the composite armour, it's already going to be 250mm less effective. This makes the ZTZ-99A probably one of the most well armoured tanks at top tier, because this ERA certainly is very trolly. So if we take a look at the armor performance itself against the tank's own gun at a range of 200 meters, and with our top round, you can see that the lower frontal plate provides you around 650mm of protection, which theoretically should give you amazing protection against the Leopard 2A6's L55 gun. Just bear in mind, this is still a Soviet derived vehicle or based on a Soviet design. This means that the hull of the sides of the hull are incredibly weak, as well as the lower frontal plate. The only time an enemy is going to shoot you in your explosive reactive armour on the top side of the hull is when they're panicking or rushing a shot. An experienced player is going to shoot that lower frontal plate or to the left or the right of the tracks. Anyway, moving up to the turret where we have our FY5 as well as composite armour, and you can see it gives us around 750mm of protection. However, this does vary in places. However, just like the lower frontal plate, the turret is deemed to be very well protected. The FY5 covers both the front and the sides of the turret, giving you pretty good all-round survivability. So this tank is fast and well armoured, but what about its gun performance? Well, it's armed with the 125mm Type 99A gun. You can carry 39 rounds of ammunition in total, with a first stage ammunition rack of 22 rounds. making it practically the same firing system as a T-72. You also use the same or similar autoloader of the T-72, giving you a reload speed of 7.1 seconds. While this does give the tank very good consistency with its reload speeds, it is considered very slow compared to the NATO counterparts. With an ace crew, most NATO tanks can reload in 5 to 6 seconds, where it doesn't really matter on the crew skill for your reload speed, it is always going to be 7.1 seconds. Like all vehicles that have Soviet influence, the gun depression isn't amazing, with only 5 degrees of gun depression. Similarly, the gun elevation is also pretty average with just 13 degrees. And finally, as you'd expect, the gun is fully stabilised in both the horizontal and vertical axis. On top of this, you'll also have a laser rangefinding for the gun, as well as 3rd generation thermal imaging for the gunner's sight. We also have a commander's independent thermal viewer, which also has 3rd generation thermal imaging. However, for some reason, you're unable to use a laser rangefinder to actually alter the gun in the commander's independent thermal viewer mode. This could be a glitch on Gaijin's end, but it isn't really that effective to use at the minute. You can still fire the gun using the commander's sight, but the gun won't automatically adjust to the range for some reason. Anyway, onto the ammunition, and our stock round is a DTP-125. This is a high explosive anti-tank thin stabilised round, which penetrates 480mm of armour. Pretty bog standard. We then have the 125-1. This travels very fast for an APF-SDS round at 1730 meters per second. At a range of 1000 meters, it can penetrate 450mm of armour. This is actually quite impressive by itself, but it is nowhere near as competitive as our upgraded round, the DTC-10-125. This travels at 1770 meters per second, but at a range of 1000 meters, it's capable of penetrating 555mm of armour. While not as high as the DM-53 fired by the L-55 on the Leopard 2A6, this APF-SDS round is still incredibly powerful in game, and will basically rip through anything you will fight against. Most NATO tanks don't really have high armour. It's mainly the Soviet and Chinese vehicles that have the incredibly well armoured turrets and upper frontal plates. So again, while you do lack the sheer penetration performance of the L-55, you don't really need it, and in my experience, you are still more than able to kill anything you come across. The round also has fairly good post-penetration damage, and feels fairly consistent to play. We then also have 2 more types of ammunition, which aren't going to be your main rounds used, but they are still quite cool to have. First is the GP-125. This is a tandem charge anti-tank guided missile, which travels at 400 meters per second and has a range of 5 kilometers. Because it uses a chemical warhead, it has a constant penetration amount of 850mm, no matter the range. This missile certainly is impressive, but due to your incredibly powerful APF-SDS round, I don't really see a point in carrying it that often. Another round that I can see a reason to carry is the DTB-12-125. This is basically a proximity fused warhead high explosive round used for targeting low flying planes as well as helicopters. While this ammunition won't turn the tank into the WZ-305, it will allow you to pose a credible threat to incoming close air support, but again, like the Abrams shell with the same capabilities, it is largely just a gimmick. So that covers it for the ammunition types. We also have a rifle caliber machine gun mounted coaxially, as well as a 12.7mm machine gun mounted in a pintle mount, controlled by the commander. So the tank is fast, incredibly well protected, and has a far above average main gun. So why isn't this tank the new meta in War Thunder? Well, I'd argue that it actually could be, but like the rest of the Chinese tech tree, it's kind of just let down by the lack of support vehicles in the Chinese tech tree. For example, this is the only vehicle that is currently battle rating 11.0, and pretty famously, the Chinese lack effective close air support vehicles. They did add a new Chinese helicopter, but it has questionable capabilities. At least in the air-to-ground role, its air-to-air capabilities are ridiculously overpowered at the minute. But China doesn't really have any effective plane-based close air support. It doesn't really have light tanks. And while it certainly isn't the weakest of the quote-unquote minor nations, it certainly isn't going to be defeating Germany or the Soviet Union as the top dog in War Thunder anytime soon. So, should you grind out this tank? I'd say it's actually well worth considering, to be honest, lads. The Chinese have been getting a lot of love recently, and the ZTZ-99A is another great addition to the Chinese tech tree. I'd say that the Swedish tech tree is still better than the Chinese one. I'd say Sweden is still the king of the, again, quote-unquote minor nations, but China isn't far behind. The Chinese Tetri is pretty good in the mid tiers. It uses a blend of Soviet and American vehicles, making it rather enjoyable to play. And at top tier, it is quickly becoming one of the most powerful top tier lineups. So if you're interested in grounding the Chinese Tetri, I would actually say it is well worth it, lads. Anyway boys, thank you again very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. If you loved the video, consider becoming a channel member, like newest members Wolfie Fly, as well as Joseph Metcalf, and long-time members Tomster013, Biff Webster, Tomato Salad, Just Someone, Dr. Bob, Deboer LX, Tans, William Tessier, and Lola Alfonso. Thank you very much for watching the video, lads, and I'll see you in the next review.